Hi, everyone. It's Vahid Razavi with the Coalition to Campaign to Stop Killer Robots. I've been a member of the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots coalition for the past 5 years. Today, I'm with Ousman Noor. He was the former government relations manager with the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots. Ousman, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and talking to me.
Thank you so much, Vahid. Pleased to chat with you.
Yeah, Osman, I was wondering, could you share a little about your background and how you got the qualifications that you had in order to land the job at Campaign to Stop Killer Robots?
Yeah, sure. Before joining the campaign, I was a lawyer in the field of refugee trafficking and modern slavery. I worked for around 9 years in London, and I'd had some experience working at the United Nations, and was very interested in the campaign, its vision and values, and working in disarmament on this crucial issue.
Now, I believe you worked there for 3.5 years. Is that correct?
3 years and 2 months.
3 years and 2 months.
Yes.
At any time during your work with the campaign, were you reprimanded? Were you warned about your performance? Or did you have any issues with how you performed on the job?
No, I had no disciplinary actions, no issues really. I believed I was respected and appreciated by the leadership in the campaign, and I really enjoyed working at the campaign.
I didn't speak with you or have any kind of communication with you in those 3 years and 2 months that you were with the campaign. I just knew about your work from what I saw from the campaign itself and the campaign staff. In mid-October, I got an email, and the coalition did, in terms of you resigning and leaving your position with the campaign to stop killer robots. Is it true? Did you leave on your own accord?
No, I didn't. I was terminated, and I was shocked to hear about that email. Actually, I understand that email was sent out to the coalition and to a lot of diplomats as well, and it wasn't even sent to me. So I only heard about it through diplomats and other colleagues who were texting me, expressing surprise and shock that I had left the campaign, and I then had to explain that I hadn't, but in fact I had been terminated. So that was quite an alarming moment for me.
Yeah, it looks like during the same time you expressed sympathy with what was taking place in Gaza and the human catastrophe that's being caused towards the Palestinians. I believe Richard Moyer is the gentleman that emailed us from Article 36, part of the steering committee. Can you talk a little about how the campaign steering committee is structured?
Yes, well, the campaign is a coalition of 250 organizations from over 70 countries, but the leadership of the campaign is the steering committee, which is 9 of those organizations, which includes some of the largest human rights organizations in the world, Amnesty and Human Rights Watch, for example. And so they make the key decisions in the campaign, political leadership, policy decisions, and also sort of internal structuring of the campaign. So they're the key body, and Article 36 is the coordinator. So the manager for the campaign, and Richard Moyes was my line manager for the campaign.
Yeah, my understanding is I looked up Article 36 is they get much of their support from the Austrian government, a government that vetoed or voted against, I should say, no, they don't have the power to veto, but they voted against the ceasefire in Gaza. Do you think that influenced the decision at the campaign?
Look, I mean, I was terminated because of a tweet relating to the international law violations taking place in Israel and Palestine. We don't know exactly whether this was an influence from Austria or other states, but I believe that it was a key factor in my determination, because ultimately the organizations that run the campaign have to be responsive to the people who fund them, and concern themselves about protecting the relationship with those states. And Austria was a state that we were working very, very closely with at the time. And it is also a state that is very pro-Israel to the extent that it is providing full diplomatic backing and voting against a ceasefire. I think that's a factor, and is one that we have called for accountability over in relation to this decision, and also wider campaign structures.
Let me ask you, the 250 coalition members, people like myself and others, formerly with Ethics in Tech and Oxymoron, now no ethics in big tech. I'm curious, what influence do they have on the steering committee in electing members, or influence that they have on these 9 organizations?
The steering committee is not really impacted by the campaign coalition in a direct way. The campaign doesn't elect the steering committee. It doesn't necessarily have power to initiate decisions. It's not really responsive, I would say, to the campaign coalition. It's an entity unto itself, I would say.
How is diversity and inclusion reflected in the steering committee?
The steering committee doesn't have any African or Middle Eastern or Asian organizations, except for one Japanese organization. I think that's a serious issue. It's an issue that has been brought up a lot, but hasn't been. It's 10 years the campaign has existed, and I think that's been the case throughout the history of the campaign. And to date, it still doesn't have any organizations from those parts of the world.
You know, I brought your issue, as well as the lack of response from the steering committee and the campaign, to what's taking place in Gaza and the occupied territories, only to be warned, potentially being threatened with expulsion, and being directly contacted by a steering committee member asking that I remain silent and not raise questions to the coalition email list. So therefore, you know, I, and alongside a number of coalition members and a huge number of general public, have signed on to this open letter that was just put out a few days ago, asking, basically stating that as Gaza burns, injustice against one is injustice against all. What kind of impact do you think such a letter will have on the steering committee and the coalition members?
I hope that this letter has a positive impact. It's not there to denigrate people or organizations. It's there to call for transparency and accountability, and I think that is needed, especially at this time when we are witnessing a genocide, and the campaign, which is involved in humanitarian disarmament, ought to be calling out for a ceasefire at the least, but also specifying the international law violations that are taking place. I also hope that it will have a positive impact in transparency in relation to my termination. That's my own specific issue here, but I think my termination is symptomatic of a deeper issue about how the campaign is making decisions. So I hope it's a time for reflection, and I hope that support from everyone will demonstrate to the campaign that it does need to act. This is a crucial time for all of us, and we need that kind of leadership. So I hope it has a positive impact.
Well, thank you so much, Ousman, for your time. The letter is going to be listed on our on the bottom of this video. I want people to read it if they can decide on their own if they want to sign it, and we'll publicize all the wonderful names of people that have come out in support of this letter and of your employment situation. And thanks again for your time today. Take care, Ousman.
Thanks, Vahid.